Merry Christmas, or Happy Holidays, or whatever you're doing. Happy Monday. So this, is it Monday? Could be Sunday. Don't know what day this is going out. This is an LGS or an Ask Me Anything. So if you want your question answered in the next one of these, which will be in a week or two's time, get your question in the comments and I'll get it answered. All the questions I'm going to go through are from the last LGS. See how that works? Makes sense, right? So I've not looked at these questions. I've got no idea what's about to happen. So without any further ado, let's get into it. The gameplay in the background is something that I'm about to play. I do need to get into the habit of maybe starting up a game and playing it while I'm answering the questions. Although I do find that sometimes a little bit difficult to concentrate. But anyway, enjoy whatever's going on behind me. So first question is going to be, what retro console and games for that console do you think will have the highest increase in value in the next 5 to 10 years? That's a question, right? Who's got a crystal ball? Who knows? I mean, in my opinion, I think the PlayStation 2 is at the moment seeing one of the biggest increases around all of the retro consoles. So I mean, a lot of people won't class PS2 as retro. I do, in a way. I don't know. I think there is a specific, like, that many years counts as retro, this many years counts as this, that and the other. But I mean, in terms of like the older consoles then, right, or just consoles in general, I think PlayStation 2 right now is seeing an increase. I'm noticing it. I'm not like looking avidly for it, but I'm seeing it in CEX. The prices are creeping up. Every time I look at a game, it's like £3. Next time I look at it, it's £4.50. Next time I look at it, it's gone up to £6 or £7. They are all creeping up on that platform. Even the sports titles that once didn't have any value at all, they were 50p. Now they're like £1, £1.50. I know it doesn't sound like much, but if the sports titles, like the bottom trash feeding games, are creeping up in price, you know the whole platform is on the up, right? So there's that. I mean, the other one, of course, is, and I know it's boring, Xbox 360. It's due, I think, a big spike in prices. At the moment, a lot of the games are cheap. A lot of them seem to go up and then they come straight back down again. I don't really know what that's all about. But I think the PlayStation 2 is probably at the forefront of that. But I mean, let's be honest, right? If you collect for Super Nintendo any game that had cardboard as its main case instead of plastic, I think that is probably going to be the one that always sees the biggest increase for in-box. So Super Nintendo is always the one that I think about because of the cardboard, right? So it's harder and harder to find complete in-box Super Nintendo games that are in good condition because cardboard is perishable. And that's just the way it is. With Mega Drive games, they're hard shell plastic cases. They don't biodegrade. They don't wear and tear necessarily unless you really, trash them. So I think that is probably going to be the one that in the future is always going to be the most expensive thing to collect for in box. But at the moment, yeah, definitely PS2. Hello, I like your videos. Thank you very much. And there aren't many Welsh YouTubers. I mean, I don't know, I see a fair few. I suppose it depends if you're not looking for them. My question is, when the VHS tapes or older video games were flooding charity shops, and second-hand shops did always... what? And second-hand shops, did you always buy them despite newer technology becoming cheaper, like DVDs? That was difficult to read because I'm stupid. So, in terms of... you may not think this, right? You may not know this even, but charity shops for me were always that sort of, I'm not going in there, it's a charity shop. I always saw them as a place that old people go to buy knickknacks. And if I'm perfectly honest, up until around 5 years ago maybe, I mean possibly a bit more than that, maybe 6 or 7, but up until fairly recently in my life anyway, I never went in charity shops, ever. Didn't know what the inside of a charity shop looked like, because I always thought, old people, knickknacks, don't want to go in there, pointless. In terms of older media though, when it comes to boot sales, I used to buy VHSs in boot sales. I used to buy older video games in car boots as well. Never charity shops, because like I mentioned, I never really went in them. Only started going in them to buy and sell. So I noticed, I think my mum once said, oh, I bought this in a charity shop and it's worth like 20 quid and they wanted £1. And I was like, oh, why don't I go in charity shops then and have a little look? And that's where it all started, right? But yeah, always used to buy VHSs, even though DVDs were out, even Blu-rays were out. I was buying like Red Dwarf on VHS. I don't know why. Just one of those things. Saw it for 50p. Still got it somewhere. The video that I'm talking about. Saw it for 50p. Bought it, and yeah, I've still got it. I actually bought They Live, which, by the way, is a banging film if you've never seen it, on VHS for 50p in a boot sale, and I sold it fairly recently, because I put it in the attic and forgot about it, right? Sold it fairly recently for about 40 quid. So, definitely some money to be had in some older VHSs. Not every, but definitely some worth looking into. You are being sent to an island, first I've heard of it, in style of Desert Island discs. Okay, you can take one console and any 3 games of your choice. There is going to be a trick answer here, right? There's going to be I'll take one of those all-in-one retro console things with built-in games. I'm going to disregard that. You can't do that. You've got to pick an actual console that was released, like an official console, and then I have to pick 3 singular games. I'm going to make up my own rules, right? Because if you could pick like a compilation, it's kind of cheating. So I'm going to pick 3 singular games. Now, it's tricky because console-wise, I can't take Football Manager unless I pick a Football Manager console game, which I don't want to do. Because otherwise I would have been like, I'll take PC, because I can basically take anything I want then. So in terms of one console, I'd love to be able to say Mega Drive, right? I really would, but I just feel like if I'm going to be stuck on a desert island and I've got a Mega Drive, you can't really pick many games on the Mega Drive that won't take like a couple of hours to finish. Most of them you'll be finished with, and there's a little bit of replayability there, but not a lot, right? So it's going to have to be something like a 360, because those games, they can be long. So I think I'd probably take a 360, and I know it's going to be boring, but to be honest, I think I'd probably take games like Red Dead, because they take ages to finish, and I would take the Undead Nightmare Game of the Year sort of all-in-one Game of the Year job, right? So I get Red Dead and I get the Undead Nightmare DLC in with it as well. And then I find it really difficult to drop the Rockstar games. Like, I could easily just take GTA, that and the other, but I think I'd probably take Skyrim as well. And then I know it's a bit of a like, I didn't see that coming. Mafia 2. I don't know why. I just really like that game. I think I probably would take Mafia 2. I mean, if I had more time to think about it, I probably would change my mind a little bit. I might even throw in a FIFA. But yeah, I think those 3 probably, just for how long they take. Speaking of long, 2 questions. Why are you sometimes a little gun shy on seemingly great deals, like a bundle for 80 that's worth 250, and you and ah about it whether you should get it? Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something specific that you're referencing. I don't know, because off the top of my head, I can't really think what you're on about. But like, for example, right? Obviously, if I had the reference, if I knew what you were talking about, obviously this would be a lot easier to answer. But if it's a Facebook deal and it's 80 quid and I look it up and I'm like thinking, right, that's going to be about 250 quid worth of value, and I still and ah about it and maybe I don't buy it, it's because I'm weighing up a fair few things in my mind, right? You've got to look at it from a point of view of it might not be in the condition they say it's in. So, for example, it's brand new, used once, which doesn't make any sense, but brand new, used once, really good condition, this, that and the other, and you're thinking, yeah, but it might not be, right? So you've got to assume that it's not trade worthy. You've got to assume that there might be something wrong with it. You have to, because if you keep going, I'll take his word for it and I'll just go and get it, it's brand new, right? And then you bring it home and it's not, and then you've then got to try and think of a way out of it, right? But if I think of it from the point of view, if it's broken, it's worth 250 quid like working, but how much is it worth broken? How much am I going to be able to get for this for spares or parts or whatever? The other thing is something that not a lot of people will take into consideration here, is how long is that going to be sat there? So 80 quid, right, but it's worth 250, absolutely insane deal. But if I'm thinking, right, I'm going to be selling this, is it something that people buy often? So for example, a Wii U console doesn't sell very often. You go on eBay right now and you have a look at recently sold for Wii U consoles at at reasonable prices. I'm not talking about the auctions that seem to go for 20 quid somehow, but if you look at like reasonably priced Wii U's and the sold listings, and you look at the dates that they were sold, they take ages to sell. There just aren't that many that sell regularly, and the reason for that is they're just not that desirable. So how long is it going to be sat there? Yes, £80 is a good price, but if it's sat there for 6 months, I'd rather put my 80 quid into something else that I know I can flip quicker. Might not make as much money, but I know I'm going to get my money back faster. So there's those two. The other thing, which again sometimes people don't take into consideration here, is that just because I make YouTube videos and I'm a YouTube content creator, doesn't mean I have bundles of cash behind me. There's not a duffel bag on the floor full of notes. Really wish there were, but there isn't. I don't necessarily have £80 just sat there that I can just go and buy something, and then that whole how long is it going to be sat there thing kind of comes into question as well, because if I don't have much money and I've got like 90 quid to my name, then can I spare £80 of it, and how fast am I going to get it back? So there's a lot of things that go into it, but that's generally why. Next question, why don't you drive? In my opinion, it makes pickups and life in general way easier, and you can expand your net. Well, there are a few reasons for that. First of which is it's just too expensive. We have a car and my wife uses it for work, and if I had a car as well, that would be running the car, the tax and insurance and all the rest of it that goes with it, buying the car itself and all the services you have to have done, MOTs, etc. And petrol is mental, right? I mean, okay, it's coming down a little bit now, but it's still very expensive. I'm lucky that I live in a town that is, I ran it yesterday, right? Okay, this is actually going to sound like it's quite a big town, but it's not. I ran a really long way around it, but it took me 2 hours to run from where I am right now all the way around the town. I don't mean the town centre, I mean the entire town. I ran all the way around the entire town in 2 hours and 20 minutes, which does sound like a long time, but the amount of hills, honestly, the gradient on this place is crazy. It was about 15 miles in total, but it's not a big place. And that's me running around. If I wanted to go from A to B, it wouldn't take me long. It takes me an hour at most, and that's if I'm strolling, right? If I'm walking with a purpose, it takes me about 45 minutes to get from one end of the town to the other, and I mean the very edge. And it's highly unlikely that someone lives on the very edge, so I'm going to be quite close. So it's not that far for me to be able to walk to someone's house if they're selling something on Facebook. And when it comes to boot sales, me and my wife go together and we drive there. And if there is something outside of town that I find a little bit too far to walk to, because I can't actually walk to the next town either side of me. Okay, the one side, which is Newport, is quite a far walk, if I'm honest. I wouldn't fancy it. But the other one, which is Pontypool, which, to be fair, doesn't really have much in it, but if I needed to walk there, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I can do it quite easily. So I'm not restricted in that sense. I know if I had my own vehicle, then yeah, I could be driving all over the place, and the amount of deals that I would get, honestly, I'd get a lot and I would make a lot more money, but at the same time, I don't know whether it's worth the whole buying the car, the insurance and all the rest of it that comes with it, right? Because it is a very expensive thing, and that's just generally why I don't. I get by doing what I'm doing now, so until it stops working, that's basically what I'm going to do. Next question. Can you discuss the benefits of owning an original Xbox or Xbox 360 with the Series X being so good at backwards compatibility? I love the original and the 360, so want to get some of the games, but don't really see the point of buying the original console at this point. Someone has not answered it for me necessarily, but someone has put a comment underneath, so I am going to read that as well. Someone says, Xbox gamer here. I still have my 360 because there are games that didn't make it to backwards compatibility due to licensing issues. For example, the Punisher video game from 2005 that released on the original Xbox is playable on the Xbox 360. Sports games like NFL Blitz 2003 and NCAA football games can still be played on 360, and I can't play them on my Series X. So, in a nutshell, that's it. If you are really, really, really tight for money, you can't afford to be buying the original Xbox, the 360 and the Series X, or you simply don't want 3 different consoles to play all these games, you are going to have to pull up lists, essentially, of all of the games that you plan to play on the original and on the 360 that may or may not run on the Series X. And that is something that I generally can't be arsed with. I would love to have one box that plays 3 generations of games without any issues. Well, technically 4 generations of games without any issues whatsoever. But it's just not going to happen. You're not going to get that with the Series X, unfortunately. Now, it is very good, and it does play a lot of the older games, but it won't play everything. There will always be something you decide to play that it won't run due to it not being supported. So for me personally, I want to have... the original Xbox is something I could probably live without, if I'm honest, because a lot of the games will be available on PS2, and that's where I played them originally, so I'm not that bothered about that. But in terms of the 360, I'll always want to own an actual Xbox 360, even though they may run better on a Series X. I don't want to run the risk of a game not being compatible, and then if it isn't, I either have to not play it ever again, or I have to go and buy a 360. So I might as well just have one there ready for when I want to use it, right? So that's honestly probably the only reason why I would say a Series X to play everything is not the way I would go. It's literally just compatibility issues. But like I said, go and get a list, and if the games that you want to play are on the list and they're compatible, you don't need the other hardware, right? If you need an excuse to get an original Xbox, this is the next question. Look at the prices of Horrors on it compared to PS2. So I had to go and have a look to see what the question meant, right? So if you need an excuse to get an original Xbox, look at the prices of Horrors on it compared to PS2. So he gives me a list of Obscure, Project Zero, PZ2, PZ2, and says go and have a look at them, right? So the way that I read that first time round was that the original Xbox is more expensive than the PS2, but then when you read it back, you think, oh, hang on a minute, he's saying it the other way around. He thinks PS2 is more expensive than the original Xbox. And it swings and roundabouts, right? But I've taken one game from that list. So Project Zero on the PlayStation 2 is £32, and there is a second one, and that's £55. There is a third one, that's £85. They're very expensive games. But if you look at the original Xbox, it's £20. So there's a £12 difference between the Xbox and the PS2. And then Project Zero 2 is £32, whereas it's £55 on the PS2. So there is a fairly big discrepancy there. Now, there isn't an original Xbox Project Zero 3 as there is on the PlayStation 2. So that would be another reason to collect for a PS2 over the Xbox. But it swings and roundabouts, because if you go and look at Manhunt, for example, I'm pretty sure that is 3, maybe 4 times as expensive on the original Xbox as it is on the PS2. So yeah, some games are going to be more expensive on one platform than the other, and vice versa. In my experience, and I might be completely wrong because I didn't know this existed, right? In my experience, the original Xbox is more expensive than the PS2, and it's generally because it's just not as desirable. That's not what I'm trying to say. They didn't make as many, there aren't as many available, and they're just rarer in general, more scarce, if you will. So they're obviously going to be more expensive. But I don't know. I suppose, like I said, swings and roundabouts, really. But I don't... I'm not going to go and collect that game just because it's expensive. I'm not that type of collector. But yeah, definitely one to look out for. Because if I saw... to be fair, if I saw that game in a boot sale, I would definitely look it up, because it's just not something you see every day, and you'd be right to look it up, because there is some value there for sure. Few comments, no questions, but a few comments on my Spotify Wrapped. Someone says we have the same taste in music. Someone else says Fall in Reverse and Slipknot. Haha, nice. I'd be interested to see my next Spotify Wrapped, because my second most or third highest genre of music was synthwave, which doesn't surprise me because I listen to it, right? But I'm sure would surprise many. But I reckon my top 2 of the last 2 or 3 years have been Slipknot and Falling in Reverse, and I'll be surprised if it's that next year. But we'll revisit. We'll come back and have a look. I don't understand when people say that Did you go back and give the shop more money? Time's not as easy. You're not going to give money away. Yeah, exactly, right? And this refers to the charity shop, right? So many a time I'll go into a charity shop, buy something and flip it for a profit. And then I don't see it as much these days. And to be fair, I haven't done it for a while. But back the very early stages of the series, I was buying things in charity shops, flipping them. And then you get people in the comments going, and I bet you didn't go back in and give them money. Well, obviously not, no, because I'm trying to make money. If I go back in and give them the profit, then what was the point in me doing it in the first place? I'm just doing their job for them, right? It doesn't make any sense. They had their money. They were happy to price it as whatever they priced it at. I bought it. I was happy to pay the price. That money goes to charity. I then go and do whatever I want with it, right? So, yeah. If it's 20, you buy it and the shop gets what being asked for. Exactly. Like I say, it doesn't happen that much anymore, to be honest, but you will get people out there that say that. And to be fair, right, I say to be fair, these people won't do that themselves, right? Maybe 1 in 100 people who comment that would do it, but most of them are just annoyed that they aren't the ones that found that for 20 quid and who can sell it for 100. That's what it boils down to. It's just jealousy, and it's one of those things. Someone says, "Hi, Mark." I don't know whether you saying your name is Mark, like, "Hi, I'm Mark," or whether you think my name is Mark. These are very strange questions. What is a demon? Do you believe in demons? Are you a demon? Don't know. No, and I don't think so. So there we go. How do you feel about the reduction of physical releases and the unstoppable rise of digital-only format? Personally, I think Microsoft's next gen of console will be digital only. I think I made a video after this, to be fair, so I'll lay you off. But I made a video talking about it, and it's literally just like the death of physical media. I think and obviously all my thoughts on this are in that video, right? Everything I think about this is in the video. But to summarize, yes, I think Microsoft's next console will be digital only, unfortunately, because the Xbox Series X games they tank every single one that comes out. They don't sell very well. They don't release as many as they used to. And then you go straight to CEX, maybe not the day after, but very soon after release, you'll go to CEX and you'll see them, and they are pennies compared to the PlayStation 5 counterparts, right? Need for Speed Unbound, always talk about it. It was sat there on the shelf, and it'd been out a little while, right? But it was a tenner on the Xbox. And if you go round the other side to look at the PS5, it was about 25, 30 quid. It's a crazy price difference, and the reason for that is Game Pass, right? EA games, together with whatever Microsoft acquisitions are on Game Pass, they're all day one releases, right? So if you've got Game Pass, which doesn't cost a lot in comparison to what you actually get for it, you get these games day one. So you don't need to go buy the physical disc, which makes perfect sense. And then the only people who are annoyed by this and who are very upset, are the physical collectors, right? So we like having games on our shelves. It looks good. We feel good about it. We love finding them in the wild and saving up the credit to go and get them. If they get rid of it, it is going to be a very sad day. But I don't think PlayStation are going to give up on it, so I'm not too worried about that side of things. But yeah, it'll be a very sad day if Xbox come out in their next briefing for their new console and they say we've got rid of it. No one can blame them, but it will be very sad. He does actually go on to say, forget this question, I've just watched your latest video. What else are we saying? I don't know the answer to this. What do you think about CM Punk return? I gave up on wrestling before CM Punk even started, and then I know of him, and I know obviously he went to the UFC. I don't know whether he's returned to wrestling or the UFC. I would imagine he's returned to wrestling, because I don't think he had a very good time in the UFC. But I know next to nothing about him. If CEX went bankrupt tomorrow, just pretend, how would you go about building your collection? Do you think it would impact you? Absolutely, 100%. I would be in, as the kids say, the mud. I would struggle big time, I think, because it is so convenient to walk into CEX and pick up 5 games, 5 quid, 5 games, 10 quid, whatever, right? They should do deals like that as well, by the way. I think that would be really good if they were like GameStation used to, 4 for 20, or whatever the other, like 2 for 20 or that kind of thing. That'd be kind of cool if they did that, like 2 games that are like £12 and they're like, oh yeah, you can have them for 20 quid. That'd be banging. I'd be in there. I mean, I am in there all the time, but you know what I mean? I would buy more that way. But no, I would. And how would I go about building the collection? I mean, you just have to adapt at the end of the day. I suppose it would be, I'd be on Facebook more. I wouldn't say I'd be in more boot sales because I don't think I can be, but I would be having to look more in boot sales and things. I know someone who buys collections and will keep what they want from the collection and then sell the rest to make the money back, right? And that's essentially what I do with Facebook and things, but on a much, much, much bigger scale. If I had the money to do that, I would absolutely do that, and that is probably one of the best. If you've got not an unlimited budget, but if you've got a nice big chunk of money there, that is a really good way to be able to build up a collection, and fast as well. If you can go buy someone else's collection who is just selling off all their stuff. How these people find the collections, I don't know. I should really ask him, but I suppose he's not going to want to share his secrets. But yeah, I wouldn't be screwed, but I would definitely be hindered if CEX went bankrupt tomorrow. Thankfully, because no one else like CEX exists on the high street, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. If you had 10k, I'm assuming you mean money, and one day to spend it, or you lose it, what games and consoles, etc. would you buy? Also, do you save any money, or does everything go out on stuff and games? I like, not to go into the very finite details of my finances, but I am very often poor, like less than £100 in my bank at any one time kind of person. I don't save, and it's a good thing and a bad thing that I don't save. Obviously it's terrible because if something happens and I need money, a little bit screwed, can't just go into my savings, right? But at the other end of the spectrum, I'm not always buying things I want, but I'm always doing stuff, or like you said, buying video games, going on holiday, doing this, doing that. I'm not just like staying in, not doing anything and saving for a rainy day that may never come, because who knows, right? Could go out on a run tomorrow and get hit by a car, dead. So what is 20 grand in the bank going to do for me then when I'm dead, right? And I know you can go into the whole detail of or the whole thing of, well, what about your family and all the rest of it, right? But they can save their own money, they don't need mine. So when it comes to what would I do with 10k, I mean, I do a lot. I'd buy a lot of running shoes, because that's all I want to do these days is buy running shoes. I still haven't bought another pair. Games and consoles wise, I would definitely buy an OLED, even though there's no real need for me to buy an OLED, and the new console will be out before I even touch the OLED anyway. Would 100% buy a Series X. That is at the top of my list, and I would still go and get a 1X probably, because why not? And in terms of other consoles, I don't know if I would buy anything else. Games wise, obviously there would be loads of games I would buy. I mean, at that point, if you've got 10k and you need to spend it all in one day, I would literally just walk into CEX and just start stacking games on the counter, because you can afford to buy almost everything in the like, not everything in the store, but everything that you want in that store for 10k you could probably afford. So I would be buying like a boxed N64, and I'd go and get all the retro stuff that I could get. But I mean, yeah, in terms of saving money, I honestly wish I was better with money. I really, really do. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, I am going to be better with money. I'm going to save now. There's no need for me to be spending money on this rubbish that I'm going to, forget that I even own in 2 months' time. And then, a week later, there I am buying Starbucks that's just well overpriced for no reason. I've got coffee at home that I actually prefer. I'm just really bad with it. What? Why just screw over the video game economy? All economy must be screwed. I don't know what that is. So let's move on. Hi, dude. Love your videos. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Oh, he does have a question. My question is, with your backlog of games, how do you tend to work through it? I struggle to settle on one game, on one system, as I have 3 to 4 consoles hooked up in the same room. Right, I have a video that I'm in the middle of editing right now that I wanted to get out as you're watching this 3 days ago, but as you're watching this, it probably isn't even out yet because the editing part of it is taking so long. And when you watch it, you'll be like, why did this take him so long to make? I am struggling massively right now when it comes to playing through games I actually want to play. And I don't really want to spoil that video, but I'll go into it a little bit. I'm struggling to get off FIFA right now, if I'm honest. EAFC, whatever. And it's because they keep releasing content and I'm trying to build up a Liverpool team and stuff, and I feel like if I miss a day, I'm going to fall behind with it. I'm going to miss something that I need to do. And I am struggling to, even though I played a couple of games last night. A lot of the time I'll be on the menus, right? But I was actually playing a couple of games last night. And I didn't enjoy it. I just didn't care. I needed to play it because I needed to finish an objective. I didn't need to win. I didn't need to score goals. I literally just needed to play. It was like play 4 games. So I'm there and I'm playing and the guy's scoring against me and celebrating. And I'm like, mate, I don't care. I just don't care. I just want to get to the end of the game. And the reason I wanted to get to the end of the game was because I can get my player from an 84 to an 86 rated and then I could go to bed. Like, I didn't actually plan on playing with that player, and I never do. I want to get these cards to a certain rating to be able to just go, thank God, and then turn off the console. I don't know why I'm doing it, right? It annoys me that I'm doing it, and I'm going into too much detail because that's basically the whole video that I've just summarised. But in terms of trying to work through the backlog, I mean, it's just, I can't even answer the question. Like, if FIFA didn't exist, I've got about 3 or 4 games I want to play at the same time, so it's just a question of you just have to pick one, put it in and play it for an hour and see if it sticks. It's the same thing about starting a Football Manager, say, for me personally. I'll start playing Football Manager and it might take me a good few hours to really get into it. It might even take me days to get into it, right? Getting into a new save in FM is one of those things. It might not happen. You might start it, you might be there for about 4 or 5 hours, you might think, I'm just not feeling this, and you go and start another one, and it might take you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 saves before you actually finally hit the one that you're like, do you know what? This is the one, I'm settled in this. And it's not the one that you start winning in or anything, it's just the one that you feel, it's that feeling. I'm feeling this sort of thing, right? So I've got no advice for you whatsoever, other than just, think of a game, look at your games, think, right, I want to play that one, put it in. If you're not feeling it, don't worry about it. Put it back in the case, put it back on the shelf, go pick another one, and eventually you'll hit one and you'll be like, this is the one, I'm enjoying this one, I'm going to continue this until I finish it, or until you get bored, and then, that's another problem entirely. Hello and good morning / afternoon, evening. Hope you're well. I'm alright. What's your thoughts on Microsoft ditching the Xbox Series X, going all digital and making the disc no more? Do you think it's a good move by them, or do you think it's going to be another Xbox One kick in the ass? Great videos, by the way. Thank you very much. I mean, I've literally just gone over this, but in terms of, do I think it's going to be another one of those Xbox One kick in the teeth? Kick in the ass. I mean, to be fair, right, and I've talked about this in the video, that Xbox One, the original Xbox One briefing, although it was boring as hell with all the TV nonsense they were talking about that no one cared about. No one buys an Xbox One because they want to watch TV, right? They buy one to play games on it and occasionally use the apps like YouTube and maybe not Twitch anymore, but you know what I mean. But in terms of the premise behind what they were trying to push back then with always being online, it was genius. And I think a lot of people, had they really listened and tried to get their head around it, it would have been a really good system. So basically, you could buy a game and then share it with 9 other friends, and they could play it even when you're playing it. You could all play it together. So if you were playing GTA, for example, you buy it, you spend 70 quid on it, you then ask your 9 other friends for their part, so they send you however much that is, and then like $8 or 8 quid or whatever it is, and then happy days. You've then shared the price of the game, it's cost you less than a tenner, and you can all go online and play it together. And people slagged that off and said, nope, don't like it. And it was more physical collectors because it was the disc had like a code, like a PC game, right? So you buy the game physical, comes with a code, you put the code in to play it, you could sell it once. And then once that game was sold and that person used the code, that was it. So the code had a 2-use only for 2 different systems. So that was the thing that people hated, and PlayStation clowned on them, and they were like, this is how you share games on PlayStation, and they literally just handed it to the other person, and that was it. So it was funny, but at the same time, people didn't really see it for how good it could have been, and that is a shame. I mean, you can game share on PlayStation, and I'm pretty sure you can do that on Xbox as well now, but it's only with like 1, maybe 2 other people if you kind of really do it finicky. But they were openly allowing you to share it with 9 other people that were on your friends list. And it would have been absolutely incredible to have like a close-knit community of people like you and 9 other people who always shared the price of games. You could buy every single brand new release and it would cost you like 8-9 quid. It would have been amazing. But in terms of this new system, only they know at the end of the day whether this is going to be a good move or a bad move, because they are the ones that are suffering from physical sales. So if it's costing them more to make physical games, they're not making the money back for it, then sure, it makes sense, right? And if you don't like it, I guess you're going to have to go over to PlayStation. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's going to be interesting. Maybe they've just sort of half put that out there just to gauge reaction, and they'll because they don't want to make the decision themselves, do the press conference, and then be like, oh, we were wrong, and now we look like idiots. But this way, everyone's given their opinion, they read everyone's opinion, and then they could go back and gauge it and see whether people were more annoyed or happy about that. So, I don't know. Someone said, what game is that? Doesn't look like War Thunder. It was Heroes Over Europe on the Xbox 360, the game in the last video. Is PC games a viable option to collect, and any tips? I mean, yeah, they are. The problem with PC game collecting is just, where do you find them? Like, that is honestly one of the biggest issues I have. Not that I would collect for them. I have a couple of PC games, but the older ones in particular, a lot of them were one-time use with codes, for example. So it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to collect them and have them to actually play. If you just want them on the shelf, easy, right? But if you want to play them, a lot of them were, codes tied to accounts kind of thing. It's not. I don't think it's like that anymore, and I don't think it's been like that for a long time, to be fair. But you definitely need a code for a lot of the games. So if it doesn't have a code, even if it isn't one-time use, that could be a bit of a pain in the ass. But honestly, it is finding them. And how many new releases on PC get actual physical releases? I don't know the answer to it, because I don't collect for PC, and I've never done. And I only bought physical games back when I worked for GameStation because it was convenient. These days, Steam is so easy, right? But if you want a physical PC collection, I mean, in terms of tips, I don't have any. It's research. You have to make sure that the games you're buying are actually going to work and run and all the rest of it, and that is the really finicky part of it. But in terms of finding them, it's just going to be pot luck, because I don't know anyone who sells them apart from CEX, because they do actually have a physical PC section. But I've never really looked at them, if I'm honest. I always just skip past them because they don't have any interest to me personally. But I've seen them in boot sales, and you can get some decent ones, and some of them do actually have value to them as well. I think Wolfenstein on the PC has a little bit of value to it. Is it PC that has the value, or is it Xbox 360? Don't know the answer to that one, actually. Forget what I just said, but I mean, more power to you if you want to try and collect for that, because that is something that I wouldn't want to try and do. Imagine having a really big PC collection. I think that would be quite impressive more than anything else. I haven't watched the whole video, but I'm liking the long video length. That's probably not what she said, but I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I've got 4 questions that I probably won't answer, if I'm honest, because they all look really stupid from someone who I know is a bit of a knob. In fact, yeah, I've just glanced at all these questions, and none of them are actually answer worthy. Have I skipped anyone's question? Probably. So before I leave you, I'm going to drop a question, right? And I'm going to get a little bit deep with this, and it's really not as deep as it should be, or as I'm going to make it out to be, right? But so in an upcoming video, I will talk about me looking through my video game collection, trying to find something to do like a retrospective review on, right? Something that I've played before that I'd like to revisit because I haven't played it in a number of years, and I'll give you my review on it. Show you some gameplay, talk about it. Is it good? Is it bad? Should you play it in 2023/4? And while I was going through them, I found a couple on the PS4 that I wouldn't mind giving another go. But then when I look down on the shelf, I'm seeing Wii games and Wii U games and GameCube, PS1, PS2, and so on and so forth, right? And I'm like, wow, I forgot I even owned those. And I forgot I owned that game and this game and that game. Why do I have these if I, A, forgot they were there, and B, have no intention of playing them? Surely I should get rid of them. So sat there for a little bit, going through eBay, looking at some of the prices, looking at the trade prices in CEX, and I couldn't make up my mind what I wanted to do, because even though I had no intention of playing them, something in my mind was saying, don't get rid of them, you need to keep them. So I was torn. I didn't know what to do. And then 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, whatever it was, I'm watching some YouTube videos. They've got nothing to do with video games. They've got nothing to do with like life or anything, but in those videos, they were talking about how life is short. It's a cliche, but it's true. And then I was thinking, in 20, 30 years' time or whatever it is, am I really going to be sat there thinking, God, I wish I'd kept Paper Mario Color Splash on the Wii U? Like, no. Obviously I'm not. I probably won't even remember that that game even exists, let alone I should have kept it, right? So why is it so hard for me to get rid of that game now? Because I know in 20 years' time, I won't be thinking, oh, I remember I had that game. I really wish I still had it. But there is another thing to be said about nostalgia doing that to me, because I want all the games from my childhood when I was playing on the Mega Drive, for example. And I'm sat here now, 20, 30 years later, and I do want them. So when I'm 70 or 60, and I'm looking back 30 years prior, am I going to be thinking, I do want Paper Mario Color Splash on the Wii U? I don't know, and it drives me mad. Like, do I sell it? Do I keep it? Do I get rid of it? What do I do? What do I do? And that is my question to you guys. Have you gone through your collection recently or in the past and thought to yourself, why do I have this game? Why do I still have this collection of games? Why am I collecting for this platform? I don't ever intend on playing it. I don't want to play it, but I can't seem to get rid of it. Have you had that happen to you? And if you have, how do you overcome that? How do you decide, you know what, no, I am going to sell it and I'm okay with it. It's fine. I'll let it go. They can all go up. I'll list every single one of them. Don't care if I even, don't make any money on them, or maybe I break even, maybe even lose some money, but I'm just going to put that money back into something else I want. Maybe you go buy another game or two. Maybe you buy a console. Maybe you put it into something that isn't games and you go out for dinner or something. But how do you do it? And what was it for you that made you decide, I'm just going to cut these off, I'm just going to downsize, get rid of them? That's going to do it for this week's LGS. Like I said, though, get your comments in the comment section and I'll answer them in the next video and answer that question, of course. If you want to check out another video from me, you can click here, and until the next time, goodbye.